Okay, business. Let me begin this video with the massive caveat that I am not a super successful multi-millionaire, don't claim to be an expert on these matters. I will never charge anyone for business advice, anything like that. However, with that said, I've been working for myself in one form or another since about 2008. At my most successful, I've managed to get my own business to the point where I could make more in a month than I made in a year in previous jobs. I remember distinctly at the beginning of 2012, I had a good January as a personal trainer or a fledgling internet business. And I remember I think it was roughly $2,000 in that month. And I gave myself a pat on the back and I bought myself a present because I did so good. And I think now the best month I've ever had would be several dozen times higher than that. So it just goes to show that, you know, I'm not Jeff Bezos by any means, but I'm certainly learning the lessons. I'm still improving. What I want to do in this video is share probably the 10 most impactful lessons or mistakes that I've made in my business career and what I've learned from them and how you can apply that to your own work as a freelance coach or business owner. The first thing is realizing the immense power of scale. You need ideas or businesses where there is not a direct one-to-one relationship between what you put in and what you get out. So if we take the classic example that a lot of coaches do and working as a personal trainer with an hourly rate of say $50 an hour. If you want to double your income to $100 an hour, what most coaches have to do is double their hours to get that $100. And if we're realistic, there's absolutely an upper limit to what people will pay for personal training, because otherwise you could just go out and charge $1 billion for one customer and then never work again. And there's obviously going to be an upper limit to the number of hours that you can do each week before the quality starts to drop off. So there's a cap to what you can make as a personal trainer. And if you want to double, triple, quadruple, and so on, X your earnings, it's going to require an equivalent amount of work to get that done. On the flip side, if you can have a scalable business or a scalable idea, you can uncouple that input with the subsequent output. So if you want to get into real estate on the side, it doesn't actually take that much more effort, if any effort, to have, for example, 10 apartment units or 10 houses as it does with 5. So as long as you're able to keep managing the properties by paying somebody else to do it for you, having an accountant to handle all that kind of stuff, it doesn't actually take any additional work on your part to increase the number of holdings that you have and increase your income. So that would be one example of a scalable enterprise. And whatever it is you're trying to do, so for example, having a subscription website, digital products which don't require you to deliver them, whenever you can implement more scalable strategies into your business, I found that me personally, my income has gone up and I've not had to work as hard for it. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want spare time. We want to be able to buy certain things, do what we want. And you need free time in order to do that, so scale. A second thing is to have a really good, firm understanding of the numbers involved in your business, particularly the lifetime customer value, which is how much each customer is going to bring into your business, and also the cost of acquisition. That is, how much money do you have to spend to convert a stranger into a customer of your business? Because ultimately, if you can make your lifetime customer value exceed your cost of acquisition, you can throw an unlimited amount of money at the problem to acquire more and more customers and make a small profit between those two numbers and increase your revenue and profits as a business. And famously, Jeff Bezos, when he started out at Amazon, gave people carte blanche to acquire customers any way they wanted to, as long as they didn't spend more than $100 per customer doing it, because he knew that the lifetime value was going to be more than 100, and obviously it's way more than that now, 27 years later. But the truth is whoever can spend the most acquiring a customer and still make a profit in the process is going to win, because they spend all of the other competitors in the marketplace out of existence. You want to make that number as small as possible, but certainly you are going to have to spend money acquiring customers. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, spending time, spending money. Ultimately, you have to convert to spending money to acquire customers. And the more you know your numbers, the more you can be aggressive in pushing to do so and discouraging competitors and taking over the particular piece of the market that you're looking to do business with. The third is understanding that there are 3 ways that businesses grow. If you read The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, you'll know that the 3 ways to grow business is organic, paid, and viral growth. So organic growth may be things like word of mouth, people searching for your business on Google, foot traffic if you have a physical location, and so on. And paid growth is obviously you are reaching potential customers and typically interrupting them with marketing messages through other channels, other businesses that make their living putting potential customers in front of you. Most notably, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. People think these businesses produce a product that's free. No, you are the product. These businesses are in the business of advertising, and they are selling to other businesses potential customers that spend time on their apps. The third kind of growth is viral growth, where it's very, very rare, but the growth of the product is built into the consumption of the product. So famously, things like Hotmail. Back in the day, you found out about Hotmail by receiving an email from someone that had a Hotmail email address, and you could sign up in the body of that email. Now, true viral growth is very, very, very rare. But the mistake that I made and that a lot of independent coaches, freelance business owners make is relying only on organic growth. And it can be unpalatable to spend money acquiring customers because 1, it might not work, and 2, it can take time to get that money back over the lifetime of them being a customer for you. However, not spending money to acquire customers and relying only on organic growth of your business is like driving 20 miles an hour in, say, a 35 mile an hour zone. Why would you not speed that process up if it's safe and appropriate to do so? And the fact is this: everyone buys customers. You're either buying in your own time, going out organically doing it, knocking on doors, talking to people, hanging out on forums, all that kind of stuff, or you are paying other businesses like social media platforms to help you acquire customers. And certainly it's a lot cheaper to do it organically in the beginning, but the fact is this: money does not get tired, it can be infinitely replicated, and time is the only non-renewable resource that you're not going to get back. You can always find more money. So the sooner you can switch over to a paid model of growth, assuming that you have your lifetime customer value and your cost of acquisition numbers in line, the sooner you can put your foot down and grow the business. And that brings us to the next step, which is the concept of a flywheel. And when we talk about the concept of a flywheel, what we're really just talking about is taking the momentum of one sale and rolling it over into more sales in the future. So for example, if you generate $100 of profit per personal training client, and you know that, say, on average, roughly, it costs you $20 to acquire a paying customer, rather than succumb to the immediate desire to take that $100 of profit and go out and buy a steak dinner or whatever, you know that based on your numbers, because you're understanding the numbers of your business, you can take that $100 and buy another 5 customers, which will generate $500 of profit, which you then go out and spend on ads, and you can generate 25 customers. Now, those are crazy business numbers. It's not that realistic. You're probably going to be generating fractions of a customer or fractional improvements in new business, but it's certainly something that you need to bear in mind, because the more money you make, the more money you make. If you can roll that over in a positive fashion to keep generating new business, the short-term sacrifice of taking money out of the business and spending money on yourself in the short term, that sacrifice generates way more money in the long term. And that's certainly one thing that I've tried to do over the years is, as I've spent money on ads, brought in revenue, my ad spend has absolutely increased over the years, but the revenue has also increased as a result. Another big mistake that I made earlier in my career was if anyone was interested in training, as long as they had a pulse and they could move, I would train them. My first website was actually called trainingbykeir.co.uk, and this is a poor indicator of business success, but in the 4 years that that website operated, I convinced 750 people to like the Facebook page associated with that website. Beg, borrow, steal, please like the Facebook page. And that's all I got up to. And I heard an analogy, I think it was on a podcast, that talked about how gaining momentum in a business is like starting a fire with a magnifying glass. If you're always moving around the magnifying glass, you're never going to generate enough heat to set fire. At that point, it became obvious that I was not made for the kind of like general fitness Instagram space, because look at me. And also all of my credibility and success and career momentum was associated with rugby. So it was for that reason that I actually bought the URL rugbystrengthcoach.com, and I switched over to that kind of brand that I was putting out information onto the internet. And in one day, the Facebook page for Rugby Strength Coach got to 1,500 likes. And I think the last time I looked, it's like 36,000 followers. So that's just one example of the power of focusing down and niching down on a particular segment of the market. One, because it's much easier to have a strong brand and to talk to your prospects and appeal to their interests, their worries, and solve their problems. But then also on a system side of things, when you do actually go through to fulfilling delivery of that service to the customer, you're much more streamlined, because each delivery of the service is very, very similar to the one before, small tweaks, and you're much more likely to iron out any inefficiencies. Whereas if you're doing a program for an overweight housewife, then you do an ACL rehab, then you do somebody getting ready for a bodybuilding competition, so much has to change from delivery to delivery that your product is very, very difficult to scale. And it's only with the scale that the money then comes. So again, it's a short-term sacrifice to turn business away, but ultimately it's much more productive in the long term to niche down and focus and say no, unless someone falls into a very strict set of criteria of what it is that you're looking for in a customer. Another classic mistake that I made when I started out, and I see particularly freelance personal trainers make when they start out, is attempting to sell everyone from the first communication. They just go around saying, hey, do a session with me, hey, do a session with me, hey, do a session with me. And that's the equivalent of going up to a girl that you've never met before in a bar and just saying, do you fancy a fuck? The one that says yes, you don't want to go home with, and everyone else is going to slap you or walk away. When we talk about converting people from strangers into loyal customers, you have to take a stepwise approach where you are asking for levels of commitment from that individual that you have earned over time by building up trust, authority, and likability. And the earlier you are in your relationship, the less of it you have, and the less of their time you are going to be entitled to. So rather than going up to somebody and saying, buy my program, buy my service, that's a very, very big commitment. It might take quite a reasonable amount of time to convert somebody to that. They're not going to give it to you, and no is the easiest thing to say. Instead, if you lower the bar to asking for a level of commitment that is requisite with the likability, trust, and authority that you have, you can simply move them to the next stage and then push things a little bit further. So for example, getting somebody to like a post on social media, getting them to read a long form article, to opt into a free resource that gives you their email address and the permission to contact you on a frequent basis, building your trust, likability, authority, and then asking for a sale in the form of a low-level product, like for example, a template or an ebook, and then building up over time to where you can make the ask for a big ticket item like a year's subscription, a long-form course, and so on. Again, you've taken a short-term sacrifice for a long-term return. Another mistake that I made early on in my career, I mentioned the website trainingbykeir.co.uk. The mistake I made was putting my name into the business, was making the business about me. You can fall into the trap of thinking that because you're the expert, they're buying you, when ultimately people are quite fickle When they buy your product or service, they don't really care about you. What they care about is the end result. When you're marketing yourself and making yourself woven into the fabric of the business, it makes it very, very hard to 1, scale, 2, delegate, and 3, ultimately sell that business. Because how do you scale you? The second you take a loyal customer and put somebody else in front of them, they're going to be upset and feel like it's a downgrade because obviously you're the star of the show. It's also very, very difficult to scale a product or service when you're the magical ingredient in that. What you need to do is concentrate on delegating from the start so that customers know, yes, you're the owner, the director of the business, but no matter who is in front of them, they're going to still receive that same quality product or service. Thirdly, when it comes time to sell the business, it's very, very tough to step away from that business if you are the business. So the sooner you can extricate yourself and make it about the product rather than you and your expertise, in my opinion, the better. This is a random one, but it's going to make you a lot of money. Remember, when you are marketing and selling to new customers, you are spending time and money to find out who is most likely to give you money for your product or service so that you can do business with them. Why go through all of that trouble when you have a list already of people that you know will give you money for your product or service? And I'm talking about previous or existing customers. It is far easier to convert a previous or existing customer to sell them on a new product or service than it is to spend the time and money to find new ones. So whenever you're in doubt, go back to your list and reactivate people if you can, sell them new products, sell them different products, but really understand that your customer list is one of the most valuable resources that you have in your business. Another important principle to remember is that human beings are incredibly lazy. They will always take the path of least resistance. So ethically, what you need to do in your business is to make it as easy as possible to buy and as hard as possible to leave. And I mean this ethically. But for example, if I sell you a product or a service, and each time you want to consume that product or service, I have to go through the act of selling you, persuading you, that means I have to sell every time you want to buy. That would be an example of a higher friction product or service. Conversely, if I run a subscription business, which I do, you are going to buy every single month until you cancel as a member. That's an example of a lower friction product or service because I sell once, hopefully once, but we have a lot of returning customers, and you buy many times. If we flip it and we talk about cancellations now, obviously, I think it's fair and it's ethical, for example, on a subscription site, to have an option that says, click here if you want to cancel your account. And we do have that. We also have it in the onboarding sequence. Hey, if you ever want to cancel, contact us right now. But we're certainly not going to email the clientele every single day, every single week. Hey, remember, if you want to cancel, just click here right now and it's all gone. You want to add a few steps there. You want to make sure that they really want to cancel and it's not just a whim when they do eventually cease doing business with you. Now, this can be taken to the absolute extreme with less scrupulous businesses, and they make it near impossible to cancel your subscription, get rid of their product or service, and they make you jump through a lot of hoops. Not to my taste, but it's certainly a business which understands the principle of friction, making it easier on the buying side and making it much harder on the cancellation side. And the final tip is this: put your prices up. It's natural, unless you're an egomaniac, to have some anxiety, particularly when you're starting out, that you can't believe that people are going to give you money for a product or service when you know all of the bad things about your product or service. You're nervous, you're worried about letting people down, you're worried about the competition and so on. And for this reason, and because people are afraid of rejection, prospects saying no, we have a tendency to put prices down and always race to the bottom with our competitors. In reality, putting your prices up is good because it increases your margin, it increases the amount of money that you can spend in acquiring a customer, lengthening increasing the likelihood that your business is going to survive. it also means that if you have staff, there's more money that you can give to staff and generate a profitable business. And ultimately, the truth is this: people are very, very flexible in what they will pay for a product or service. And you can actually put prices up quite a lot before buying rates start to go down. And ultimately, as long as the buying rate drops by less than what you've put the price up by, you're still gonna make more money in your business as a whole. And truthfully, you're probably gonna have an easier time of it, because when you have fewer customers, you're able to deliver a higher quality product or service to those customers and generate more revenue as a whole. And honestly, I think most personal trainers, business owners, and so on could double their prices overnight, and I guarantee you their conversion rate, the number of customers that they're acquiring, would not half. Their revenue would go up, and they would probably have an easier time of running their business in the process. So am I telling you to double your prices? Maybe, but no. But certainly have more confidence about commanding a certain price point for your product or service and put it up. And when you do, and the world doesn't explode, you'll realize that you should have done it a long time ago. You've left a lot of money on the table. So when in doubt, don't second guess yourself, put the prices up. So there it is. I'm not a business expert. I don't have an MBA. I'm not gonna charge people for business advice, consults, all that kind of stuff. What I am happy to do though is just share my experiences, answer any questions that people have related to business within the Business of Coaching forum inside strengthcoachnetwork.com. So if you do have questions like that, by all means, post them up inside the members area. I'd love to talk to you about it. And yeah, if you want more free resources, just click on the link below, and you can sign up for one of our email courses to help you take your coaching to the next level.